Game journalists try not to be retarded challenge. Impossible. As IGN speaks about the rumored, assumed Resident Evil 5 remake, and they say that it needs to be rewritten. It simply can't be remade. At least not to the standards of Capcom's best work. And this is just cringe. This is just very par for the course for current day. Everybody being offended by everything. Now, I don't know if you guys remember, but before this game even came out, a long time ago, there was a little bit of backlash for it because you're in Africa and you're fighting black zombies, and they didn't even have Sheva Alomar at first in the trailers. They just had Chris, and so some people were crying about it. Some people were like, oh my gosh, you're just killing black zombies as a white dude, and they were offended. I remember when that was going on, I thought it was hilarious. It's like, come on. But I digress. Then all of a sudden, we see that Chris has a partner here, Sheva Alomar. Now, whether or not she was already planned or if that was just a response because of the backlash, who knows? I always assumed it was the latter, but I don't know. I'm just assuming that. That being said, I did like Sheva Alomar a lot. I would love to see her come back to the Resident Evil franchise in like the newer stuff. I loved her. I know a lot of people didn't. And I think that the people who didn't, though, specifically, was because the AI was bad. Now, if you played co-op, like I did with my brother, oh my gosh, it was so fun. That reminds me, I have a sand globe back here that was from, I'll have to show you guys. I wanted to show you guys the sand globe, but while it was on top of mind. See? This is one of my favorite gaming collectibles. There you have Sheva Alomar, you have Chris Redfield in a sand globe fighting black zombies. Okay, let's continue. I mean, aren't most zombies always white? Why can't zombies be black in Africa? It would make sense. I mean, zombies, are they not dead people? So they would be black if you're going to Africa. How is that offensive? They're white everywhere else, practically. Like, how many? Black zombies are not common. Come on now. Black zombie lives matter. Okay, let's continue. All right, let's just see what IGN's reasonings are for this. They got ratioed. They had to turn replies off and look at all these quote tweets and stuff. Yeah. I'm just saying, if they're going to remake Resident Evil 5, they better not change too much. Don't change too much. I freaking loved that game. I don't care what people say. A lot of people hate it. That is the most fun I've ever had in a Resident Evil game. I think now, I used to say it was my favorite. I think now I can objectively say it's not the best. And this was my opinion back then too. It's objectively not the best Resident Evil game, but it's the one I had the most fun with because the co-op with my brother was just a great time. So let's just see what IGN's take on this is. They say, with Resident Evil 4's release last year, Capcom's project to remake the glory years of its survival horror series is complete. But as the game's post-credits scene suggests, the remakes aren't over. And so the big question is, where next? The obvious answer is a remake of Resident Evil 5. I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if they did Code Veronica. But on the game's 15th anniversary, it's clear that moving forward chronologically will take Capcom's remakes into the series' weakest era, an era of gameplay and narrative decisions best left in the past. Resident Evil 5 simply can't be remade, at least not to the standards of Capcom's best work. And so the answer is not to remake, but to rewrite. Resident Evil is a survivor horror series, not that you'd know that playing Resident Evil 5. Sure, it features a constant flow of horrific imagery, but Resident Evil 5 is an action game through and through. That's evident in its cover shooter mechanics, vehicle chase with on-rails turret sequences, and the constant rattle of assault rifles. Even its visual design evokes, okay, come on, let's get to the point here. It all speaks to a series that had lost its way rather than reflect on the tenets that were the foundation of its existence. I mean, Resident Evil 4 already turned Resident Evil more actiony. I mean, the games progressively got more actiony as they went forward. I mean, 1 and 2 were very, very puzzle heavy. Resident Evil 3 was a lot more actiony than Resident Evil 2. And then Resident Evil 4, even more actiony. This was a progression of it. And I do agree that I like more puzzles and stuff. But still, if it's like, okay, if you want it rewritten, if you want it changed, all that kind of stuff, then make a new game in the series. If you're going to remake something, remake it. Remake it faithful, except with like updated graphics or something. But don't change it, then what's the point in a remake? This is all that ESG, all that kind of crap, it's include DEI crap. They want to change history. They don't want people to remember the past. So it's a miracle we got the Tomb Raider remasters, because everything Crystal Dynamics have done and all the woke stuff they've inserted and that they're wanting to continue to do, they don't want people to remember the past. It's a miracle that Embracer even handed the remasters off to Aspire and Saber to make those. Because Crystal Dynamics certainly didn't want to. So in this case, yeah, I mean, and game journals especially, we already just had it come out, which I haven't done a lot of research on it, but people have been saying that the government has been interfering with the video game industry. And is that a surprise? No. Just like with Hollywood, with this and that, they're wanting to program us. I mean, given just how insane the gaming industry has gone and how far they've pushed this inclusion narrative, the DEI standards, the BlackRock funding with the ESG scores and all that, to me, that was a no-brainer that the government was involved with that. Like, whether that just be the US government or the world governments at large. Dude, here's the thing. Satan is running the world until Jesus returns. He's interfering with everything he can to insert anti-biblical stuff. And woke is the epitome of anti-biblical. Check my video out I made a year and a half ago called Woke Ideology is Satanic. Like, everything about it just counters Christianity, the core pillars of Christianity. So, yeah, and people think I'm crazy for that. But it's like, no. This is why it's a thing. Why else does the government care so much about inserting queer crap in the games or whatever else? It's evil. It's evil. There's no other way to talk about it. Like, that's just how it is. And when it comes to all the inclusion and things like that with the races, they want racism to run rampant. They want to, because that's the thing, is as a whole, most people aren't racist. The high majority of people aren't racist, so they have to manufacture racism. How can they do that? This is one method of doing that. Causing a artificial racial thing and, yeah, making people fight about it. It definitely seems intentional to me, among many other things. But anyway, let's go ahead and continue. Rather than reflect on the tenets that were the foundation of the existence of Resident Evil 5, looked to the contemporary gaming zeitgeist in an attempt to find a new lease of life. The result is an unholy hybrid of Resident Evil, Gears of War, and Call of Duty. It's as ugly and unwieldy as it sounds. Okay. This design appears to be not just a misguided attempt to follow Western successes, but also a misread of its predecessors. With Resident Evil 4, director Shinji Mikami deftly reinvented the series through the use of a new over-the-shoulder camera angle. The perspective allowed for a more kinetic, action-heavy game. Despite this, Mikami never lost sight of the terror at the core of Resident Evil through the use of enemies that were strategically placed to provide undulating, I don't know that word, waves of tension and fear, and the inclusion of Ashley as your vulnerable charge. Combat encounters were focused on surviving overwhelming horrors rather than dominating foes. Resident Evil 5, meanwhile, presents its enemies as waves to be gunned down with increasingly powerful weaponry. Their purpose is cannon fodder, a wall of meat to slow your progress through levels. it's just like, okay, I think that it is valid to have criticisms about, oh, this game is too action heavy for Resident Evil. But to say it needs rewritten and to say it needs changed, why would they even tackle a remake then? It should just be left alone then. Make something else. They said a faithful remake of Resident Evil 5 would break Capcom's 7-year streak of brilliant survival horror. The streak was already broken with Resident Evil 3 Remake, if we're being honest. Not that the Resident Evil 3 Remake was absolute trash or anything, but it was not up to par with Resident Evil 2 Remake. It was too much focus. Like, they're trying to talk about action here. There was a lot more focus on action and set pieces. Like, come on, the set pieces. And I know Resident Evil 3 in general just wasn't as puzzle-based as Resident Evil 2, but still, I was not very pleased with Resident Evil 3 Remake. I just wasn't. Nemesis wasn't as chilling and terrifying as he should have been either. I found Mr. X on Resident Evil 2 Remake more scary, more daunting, because it felt like you had more safe spaces away from Nemesis. Now, Nemesis almost felt set piecey. I am not a big fan of set pieces in video games. It's way too scripted. I don't like games to be super scripted, especially like QTEs, stuff like that. I don't like that. And so my biggest gripe with Resident Evil 3 Remake was that it was way too linear, set piecey, all that kind of stuff. And it did lack the same like puzzle and horror, like scary. Like I wasn't as scared as I was playing Resident Evil 2 Remake. I mean, but when you're really breaking down the story and the characters and all that kind of stuff, I mean, look at Carlos, for example, and the changes that they made with him. I thought those were good. I will say that was an improvement. So it's not that it was a total failure or anything, but I wouldn't say Resident Evil 3 Remake was brilliant. I wouldn't call it brilliant. I'd call it decent. Decent, okay, good. Like decent to good, but definitely not brilliant. All right. All this to say that a faithful remake of Resident Evil 5 would break, okay, their 7-year streak of brilliant survival horror games. I want to see what they have to say about the story. Reset Point Resident Evil 7 was a reinvention of the first game, a haunted house. That's true. I did like Resident Evil 7's direction. And it's funny because I hated it at first. It took me... I didn't get back to it for years. And then by the time because I was like, oh, this is too much like Amnesia or something. It's not enough Resident Evil. But I was wrong. Like when I went back to it, I started to feel, okay, this actually feels more like it's going back to Resident Evil roots, the classic stuff, than it has in a long time. It's just packaged a little different with the first person mode, and also Ethan Winters being less capable. Typically what we see in Resident Evil games is just very trained, capable characters. And in this case, Ethan Winters wasn't that. So it was different in that sense. But at the same time, though, I really do think it was taking the series in a right direction. I really liked 7, really liked Village as well. Remakes can, of course, completely redefine the structure of their source material. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, for example, is a recognizably an updated version of the classic RPG. Dude, don't even get me started. I didn't even give Rebirth a shot because I did not like Resident Evil 7 Remake. I hated it. Oh, here we go. We're getting to the racism part. Let's go. That's what I'm looking for. But all this doesn't account for Resident Evil 5's most notorious problem, racism. Set in a fictional West African country. Apparently it's racist to have black zombies, but we have white zombies, so why can't you have black zombies sometimes? They're in Africa. Resident Evil 5's primary antagonists are black people. Yes, technically it's the Ouroboros virus that protagonist Chris Redfield is fighting, but the parasite's host is depicted as a nation of mobs and primitives who are violent even before their infection. Dude, it would look the same in Chicago. You know what? I think with everything going on with Haiti right now, they're really trying to virtue signal. But it's like, why? To me, is it? I think it's more racist to try to virtue signal on this than it is to not. Because if you don't have a problem with white zombies and you have a problem with black zombies, then that's racist, okay? It just is. It's racist. And it's trying to virtue signal and be like, oh, because I guarantee you whoever wrote this was probably white. I need my black viewers. Let me know. What do you think about black zombies? Let's hear it. All right. Intentionally or not, Resident Evil 5 positions Africa as the Dark Continent, an uncivilized world harboring a diseased population that needs gunning down via Western intervention in the name of global security. Dude, they do this in freaking, like, Raccoon City. Why can't they do this in Africa too? It's clearly a global contagion. Like, there's other viruses that have, like, this has just reached a mass scale. This insensitive treatment of people of color was hotly debated even as early as Resident Evil 5's debut trailer, with writers such as, I can't read that name, and Stefan Totilo pointing out the game's uncomfortable post-colonial imagery. The arguments and think pieces continued well into the game's release window, with IGN's own former editor-in-chief, Hilary Goldstein, having also wrestled with the subject. But that was 2009, a time when race was apparently a debate rather than a reality. Oh my gosh, I'm cringing so hard. In the 2020s, in a post-Black Lives Matter... Guys, this is a post-Black Lives Matter world. My earbuds are trying to pop out because I'm laughing and it hurts my ears. Okay. Oh. Okay. My ears are too small to be laughing like this. Okay. There is only one acceptable response to a white man shooting waves of Africans for an entire video game. No. Bro, are you gonna ignore that Sheva Alomar is black? His partner in crime, not in crime, actually in good, is black. Dude. And what about the protagonist in the Walking Dead video game, Lee, I think his name was? He was black. He was shooting white zombies. Nobody gave a crap. Remakes may be able to redefine their source material, but there's only so many changes you can make until it's not a remake at all. Exactly, so don't do it. So don't freaking do it. So what are they going to personally? I'd look backwards. Code Veronica is an ideal candidate. I do think Code Veronica is an ideal candidate. There's a lot of people who have been wanting a remake of Code Veronica. That said, don't skip over Resident Evil 5 altogether to remake. Like, I freaking love Resident Evil 5. I adore Resident Evil 5. I showed you guys one of my most prized possessions in my gaming collection. I love this game. I would love to see it remade. But yeah, they need to do it right. That's the thing, is I wouldn't want them to like change a bunch of things or anything like that. Not only that, but the actual finished product of the game, which look how they conveniently show, okay, here's these black people and here's Chris. They don't show Sheva. They conveniently leave out that Sheva's there, which just shows again that this is an agenda. They are trying to manufacture racism. They included white zombies as well. Did they not? I know it's been a while since I played it, but they did include white zombies in the final build. It wasn't just black ones. Even though it could have been just black ones, they're in Africa. That's not racist. All right, so anyway, yeah, they turned replies off, and I just love Yellow Flash here, what he posted. He said, IGN, this you Resident Evil 5 review on 9. Amazing. Editor's choice. Funny. Anyway, yeah, that's some more craziness going on right now. But there you have it for today's video. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Also, if you want me to read the Bible to you, you can check out my Bible reading channel, Bible Time with Melanie Mac. And then my streams on Wednesdays and Thursdays at Melanie Mac on YouTube, Kick, and Twitch until they ban me. I'm surprised I haven't been banned today because I just had my first stream back on Twitch after my last ban. And I was not very polite. I wasn't very politically correct. So I think it's only a matter of time before I get banned again. Thought it would be today, but should be soon. Anyway, thank you all again. I'll catch you next time. And in the meantime, go boom. Miles Morales.